Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's vetoes stall the EU path and €140 billion loan plan for Ukraine in Copenhagen.
اعتراضات در سراسر اروپا به توقیف ناوگان کمک رسانی به غزه توسط اسرائیل.
European leaders wrapped up 2 days of summits in Copenhagen, dominated by Hungary's Viktor Orban, whose vetoes stalled efforts to back Ukraine. The Hungarian Prime Minister rejected a €140 billion plan for Kyiv, funded by frozen Russian assets, despite Belgium's appeals for solidarity.
Yes, we have problems with Hungary. We can speak about it because Viktor Orban has elections. And I think it's not smart because he has elections. That's why he's blocking big 40 million nation on their way to EU. Big and strong nation. Because, by the way, Russia began this war because our will and our choice to go directly to Europe. Because we feel the same and share the same values with all other European countries.
Orban also refused to lift his veto on Ukraine's EU membership bid, also blocking Moldova's progress. In response, Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen called for the EU to maintain its unanimity.
No, I think we have to stick to strategy, and enlargement of the European Union is a part of our strategy. And it's a question for the entire European Union and actually the entire European continent. And we have to build as strong Europe as possible, which in my world means enlarge the European Union. There is European unity because we are 26 countries agreeing that Ukraine, Moldova and other countries should join us. By the way, they're doing quite an amazing job, even though they are at war. So no, I think we have to stick to strategy. And I will not allow one country, and I will certainly not allow Viktor Orban to take decisions upon the entire European future.
The deadlock leaves Kyiv's accession frozen and complicates Europe's financial support, with fresh sanction talks also facing potential vetoes. For now, EU leaders pledged to keep talks moving with Ukraine, despite Orban's defiance threatening to fracture unity.
Global outrage erupted after Israel intercepted the Gaza aid flotilla aimed at breaking the long-standing Israeli blockade and bringing humanitarian aid to the war-ravaged enclave. Israel's foreign ministry dismissed the mission as provocation, saying that various countries had offered to deliver the aid the boats were carrying. Israel has continuously faced widespread criticism on how much aid it lets into Gaza and how it distributes it. In Paris, a protest against the French government and budget cuts transitioned into a demonstration for Gaza, with more than 1,000 protesters gathering in Place de la République.
Ces militants et militantes aient été arrêtés dans les eaux internationales. C'est totalement illégal du point de vue du droit international.
Demonstrations were also held in several cities in Italy. In Milan, 20,000 people marched through the city centre, and in Rome, at least 10,000 people gathered at the Colosseum. The protesters demanded the release of the Italian activists who were part of the flotilla and urged the government to place more pressure onto Israel.
Praticamente un popolo che manifesta per un diritto alla vita di bambini, di donne che tutti i giorni muoiono massacrati sotto le macerie, perché la guerra si fa con due eserciti. Lì c'è un esercito solo e c'è della gente affamata che scappa dalle bombe. Cioè, chiamare guerra a sta cosa è aberrante.
Protests also took place in other major cities in Europe, including in Barcelona, Geneva, Brussels, Istanbul and London, as well as worldwide in Sydney, Buenos Aires, Mexico City, New York and Kuala Lumpur.
2 people have been arrested in connection with what police confirmed was a terrorist attack at a synagogue in Manchester on Thursday. 2 people were killed and several others critically injured after a man drove a car into a crowd and began stabbing people, police said.
As has been confirmed by CT policing, we believe that the identity of the offender has been established, but until we are certain of this fact, it is premature to set out this detail at this juncture. In addition, I can confirm that 2 other individuals have been arrested in connection with this incident, and urgent inquiries are ongoing. We can confirm that 2 members of our Jewish community have sadly died as a result of this attack.
The attack occurred on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, with many gathering at the location for the celebration.
I heard bang bang, and then we heard the helicopters, we heard the sirens, but you hear sirens every day because we're around the corner from the hospital, so you kind of hear it every day. It's an everyday thing, you're hearing the siren. And then we thought maybe God took it to be a suicidal because we're right near the forest, but then we heard it was gunshot and there'd been a
Officials say they believe they know the identity of one attacker at the scene, although declined to release any more details. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the attack was an example of the rise of anti-Semitic hatred in the United Kingdom.
Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever has called on the European Commission to provide direct answers to the legality of using Russia's frozen assets to issue Ukraine a €140 billion loan. The idea was first proposed by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen last month, an idea set to test the limits of international law. The audacious plan would entail using up to €185 billion in Russian assets held on Belgian territory. But De Wever wants guarantees that if it goes wrong, Belgium won't be the only country liable for repayment, damages, or litigation.
I don't want to give a dime back to Mr. Putin, and I understand why everybody's looking at a huge amount of money. If you look at the sovereign assets, 170, in other countries it's also a lot. We are ready, willing and able to go forward. It's no problem. But I want answers on every question I asked. I want the maximum of legal certainty, I want solidarity, and I want transparency on the situation in the other countries. I don't think this is an unreasonable position.
Under the scheme, Russian funds frozen by Europe's Central Securities Depository, Euroclear, would transfer the money to the Commission, which would then be gradually issued in loans to Ukraine over time. Ukraine would then be asked to repay the loan only after Russia agrees to compensate for damages, hence the name reparations loan. The Commission would then repay Euroclear, who in turn will reimburse Russia, completing the circle.
This Thursday marked the 3rd day of nationwide strikes in France in less than 1 month. After the demonstrations of September 10th and 18th, unions once again rallied people across the country to oppose the government's planned budget cuts. The turnout, however, was much lower than the 2 previous strikes. The Interior Ministry counted 185,000 people at 5 p.m. compared to 500,000 just 2 weeks ago. The main trade union CGT said that 600,000 people demonstrated this Thursday across France. Here in Paris, the protest was very calm, a sharp contrast with the more tense atmosphere and clashes that we saw 2 weeks ago. This time, union leaders did admit that the movement was losing momentum. They did, however, say that they're now waiting on the newly appointed Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's general policy speech in Parliament that's scheduled in the next few days. For now, no further mass protest date has been set, but unions insist nothing is ruled out. Sofia Kastenkova reporting from Paris for Euronews.
Europe's steel industry has said its survival is at stake, warning of mass layoffs unless Brussels introduces urgent protection against US tariffs and Chinese imports. German union IG Metall says companies such as ThyssenKrupp face thousands of job cuts. The sector supports around 2.5 million workers across the European Union. The European Commission's Vice President convened an emergency summit with unions and industry leaders after US President Donald Trump imposed up to 50% tariffs on steel. Surplus from China is also flooding the market and driving down prices. The Commission says it will propose fresh protective measures at next week's European Parliament session in Strasbourg.
Swiss glaciologists say glaciers in the country have faced enormous melting this year due to the effects of global warming. Scientists say Swiss glaciers have experienced a 3% decline in total volume in 2025, the fourth largest annual drop on record. Including this year's figures, experts say Switzerland, home to roughly 1,400 glaciers, the most in Europe, have declined by 1/4 over the span of only 10 years. They noted that since they began measuring glaciers, more than 1,000 small ones have already disappeared. Glaciologists say the decline is due to winters with low snow depth, combined with summers filled with heat waves. They also say the decline in glacier mass will surely have multi-industry implications, affecting energy, tourism, and farming sectors. Teams on the ground added that the glacial recession started earlier than usual this year, with snow reserves being almost fully depleted by early July after an exceptionally hot June. The retreat is also having significant impact on the country's landscape, causing mountains to shift and ground to become unstable.